And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Friday, November 14th. We've got an 8-game DraftKings slate, NBA Cup style. We got a 9-game FanDuel slate. We'll talk about all of it over the course of the next hour and then some. Live before lock after this, playback after that. We're going to be around for a while. We got a lot of news to talk about. It's going to be a fun time. I'm Josh Engleman. That is DK. You can find him at DK__DFS on Twitter. And you can also hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. This is a fun DFS slate, but these are really not good NBA Cup games.
Yeah, it's not the best slate of games, but I agree. I think it's a pretty good DFS slate, and I do have a couple takes on some of the questionable tags as well.
We have a lot. We have two like really specific injury spots. We got a little bit of clarity on one of them earlier. We've got some fun value. Ooh, Zach Edey questionable for Saturday. I don't know if the Memphis Grizzlies are the team you want to get back to super quickly right now, but I'm a Zach Edey truther, and I'd like to see him playing basketball again. That said, it has been bad vibes in Memphis as of late. Not great, man. Not great over there. We got some better vibes in Miami right now. Unfortunately, Bam Adebayo is hurt. Tyler Hero has not played yet. The Miami Heat are 6.5-point dogs in New York. And the Knicks are also missing Jalen Brunson. This could have been like such a really fun game. The Heat are playing this different style. Everything's fast. No, we don't. The three of the four most important players in this game, not available. But that is creating a little bit of ownership and a little bit of interest in different places. Karl Anthony Towns is about 25% owned on DraftKings. OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, and the man expected to start in Jalen Brunson's place, Miles McBride, pulling just relatively pedestrian ownership on DraftKings. We'll get to him on FanDuel in a sec. And then not much else coming in here. How do you want to approach this? Because as I look at this ownership, I am much more interested in Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, I like Cat a lot here. I'm surprised he's not getting more ownership, to be honest. Brunson off the court this year, he's got about a 28% usage rate and averaging about 1.53 fantasy points per minute. Mike Brown said that they're going to run more offense through Cat as well. And I like the matchup a lot here. I think he'll have like Khalil Ware on him. So, I think Karl Anthony Towns right now is one of the better spin ups in the slate. And if this ownership holds, like I would definitely want to be overweight to that 24% number. So, I like him a lot here.
It's just he just steps into so much more interesting stuff. I'd like him even more if Mitchell Robinson was out, but it doesn't seem like Mitchell Robinson is going to be playing so many minutes that it really matters all that much. I think the question after this is, what do you like after Towns? How do you feel about McBride here? Do you think one of the other three main dudes, obviously Hart coming off the bench now, but one of the three other main dudes, does anybody else jump out to you?
Yeah, well, first I want to keep an eye on that starting lineup. I think McBride's the most likely candidate to start, but not a guarantee. Like Mike Brown has shown that he kind of likes keeping the second unit intact. So like, there's just like an outside chance that like Tyler Kolek could start or something like that. Yeah. Like he could do something weird like that. I think it's definitely possible. So I want to keep an eye on that. But if McBride does start 4.8K, I think he would stand out as a pretty good point dollar option. We'll probably expect like around 30 minutes from him. Would obviously have a bigger role with Brunson off the court there. I think you would see more ball handling for Josh Hart off the bench as well. 5.9K, reasonable price point there. And then a little bit more usage for guys like OG and Mikal Bridges, who I think are fine guys, fine filler plays. Not really guys I'm going to prioritize, but if they land in my lineup, I think that's totally fine. So, yeah, I'm curious to the starting lineup. Again, I think it's going to be McBride, but it's not a guarantee. Wouldn't be surprised if they did something weird.
Keep your eye on it. The thing I want to point out, this is for the FanDuel peeps, because this is a very different story for some of these guys. Towns, much more owned, 35% here, 8,900. McBride, north of 30 right now, 4,400 point guard, shooting guard. That's just the difference in the way rosters are constructed. The forced nature of the positions on FanDuel, the more liberal nature of the positions on DraftKings. That's going to have McBride looking better on FanDuel all day. Just want to put that out there. But yeah, I don't really know how to separate the Josh Harts, the Ananobis, the Bridges. If Tyler Kolek starts, probably not all that interesting on FanDuel. Could be interesting on DraftKings at the flat 3K. Minutes would be weird and scary for sure. And it's the early game. But it also, I agree with you. It wouldn't shock me if he tried to keep that second unit together. That would not be a wild situation at all. Do you have anything else here? Do you have anything for the Heat? Because these guys are essentially unowned. Everybody's sub 10%. So if you like somebody, you're probably liking them more than the field does.
Yeah, I guess one more guy to mention for the Knicks would be Jordan Clarkson. If McBride does start, I would have more interest in Clarkson because then I would be a little bit more confident in his minutes. So I think if McBride starts, I think you can consider Clarkson as a pivot off of McBride. So just wanted to mention that. But yeah, for Miami, there's not a ton of ownership coming to this team. I do think that you can play Khalil Ware in tournaments. He was someone that had a pretty good game last game against the Knicks. It's not guaranteed that he closes. That's always the risk with Ware. They can close a little bit smaller with Jovic, but we saw him get in some foul trouble and still have a pretty good game, 38 fantasy points in 28 minutes. The game before that, 34 minutes, 46 fantasy points. So he's always someone I do have some interest in when he's low owned. There's risk, as I said, but I think he's playable in tournaments. There's not really anything else here. Like if you land on Davion or Pele Larson, I guess, but there's nothing really standing out to me for Miami.
No, I wouldn't. I don't really see anything jumping off the page here. Like I'm always mildly interested in Khalil Ware because he's either going to play like 23 minutes or 33 minutes. And when you get him in that bigger minute number, like that's usually going to be a pretty good thing for where he's at, but it's one or the other. And today doesn't feel like the day, but I wouldn't be surprised if I have a little bit more because he's typically a guy I end up getting to. Not something I'm super excited about if it happens, though. Let's see if we've gotten an update since we got started. Nope. Not that we've needed one. Okay. This next one is a bit of a stinker. It's the Brooklyn Nets and the Orlando Magic. The Brooklyn Nets are 2 touchdown dogs here in this one. But the interesting piece of this one is that there is no Paolo Banchero for the Orlando Magic, and he'll probably be out for 2-3 weeks. 5,100 for Jalen Suggs, point guard only, 44% owned, 50% optimal. And I guess the more interesting part, he's been playing more.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of the dude here because Brooklyn stinks.
Yeah, I think like of the main guys for Orlando, Suggs is definitely the easiest to get to. As you mentioned, like the minutes have ticked up on him, which is good to see. I think in a competitive game, you're probably going to see around that 30-minute mark. And he's not priced for that right now. And it's a great matchup, too, against Brooklyn. So I agree. I think Suggs is definitely the easiest guy to get to. The ownership is not insane on guys like Franz and Desmond Bane, which is definitely interesting. Obviously, there's some blowout risk in this game, but these are 2 guys that do have a pretty high ceiling with Paolo off the court. Franz has a 33% usage rate with Paolo off the court this year. Desmond Bane, I should say, has been way more involved recently. His ball handling role has been a lot better too. So I like the upside in those 2 quite a bit, that being Franz and Bane. And then keep an eye on the starting lineup for Orlando. I think it's going to be De Silva. There's an outside chance to go to Jonathan Isaac, but I think the most likely candidate there is De Silva. Is that what you're thinking too for the starting lineup?
Yeah, De Silva makes the most sense to me. In theory, it could be like Anthony Black as well. You could just as easily move Franz and Bane the other direction positionally. But we are going with the expectation is Tristan De Silva, which is wild. 3% owned, doesn't exist at all. 4,500, but also not all that surprising. He's stepping into, hey, go stand over there territory.
Right. Isaac did start the second half last game, but it was weird. He started and played like 2 minutes, and then De Silva came in and played the rest of the third quarter. So, yeah, I think he's the guy that most likely starts. Again, he's not going to be like a super high usage player, but I do think he's playable. He's low owned, and he's stepping into more minutes. So I think you can get to him, especially in this matchup against Brooklyn.
I like Bane here. That is not what's on the screen, that's for sure. A massive negative leverage, but I just think this is gonna shift everybody into like a more appropriate role for what they want to do, because they're still trying to figure it out to how to make all three pieces work. I'm pretty confident they're going to know how to do, hey, these two dudes are the dudes today. And I think that's all going to fit together quite a bit better. So I like Franz. I like Bane. I'm very interested in that piece. Obviously, I can't get away from Jalen Suggs. Do you want to do anything weird here? Because Goga Batadze is 5% owned and 7% optimal. And this is a 14-point line. Could we see extra Goga in lieu of Wendell Carter Jr. today?
Yeah, I think he's viable for that reason. If the game does get out of hand, we'll talk about Day'Ron Sharpe in a bit on the opposite side, who's kind of a similar type player of like, we'll play the back of five and we'll play the blowout. So Batadze, not a bad point per minute player. Again, he's not getting a ton of ownership. And if this game does get out of hand, there's a pretty good chance that he does close. So I think he's interesting as a tournament play. We do have a lot of really good center options on the slate. We'll talk about some in future games, but yeah, I think he's definitely viable.
You want to touch on anybody from the Brooklyn side? All these guys are fully unowned. The Igor Demon at 4,400 is the highest owned man at 6.9 nice percent. Nothing else then. It's Day'Ron Sharpe at nothing. It's Clowney at nothing. It's Porter at nothing. I mean, if Brooklyn's going to win this game, there are some names in that list that I'm a little bit interested in, but I think they're going to find this one to be pretty difficult to navigate.
Yeah, it's. I don't feel great about it, but I think I have a little bit more interest in the 0.7% Nick Claxton and 2% Michael Porter Jr. Just for the chance of like, if they do keep the game competitive, that those are the two that are probably having pretty good games. So don't love the price points on them, don't love the matchup, but I think if I was building 150 lineups, I would be a little bit overweight to both those guys.
It's funny. I've been pretty heavy on Michael Porter Jr. on a lot of slates so far this season. Today is not going to be one of them based on what I'm looking at right now. You mentioned Michael Porter Jr. and Clax when you said that. The guy that I had my eye on was actually Noah Clowney at 4,800. If I was going to get to one of these 2% owned dudes, I think he's the guy that probably grades out the best for me and can get into the most lineups. Although power forward with Giannis and Towns is a pretty popular position today.
Right. And he's basically just going to be playing all the four too. Like last game, he played the backup five with Sharpe out. So when he plays the backup five, the ceiling is a lot higher on Clowney. But yeah, I think he's fine because of the price point.
Wildly different game on FanDuel. FanDuel just funnels you to higher quality players so much more. And that's what we're seeing here. Franz Wagner at 7,900, 45% owned. Desmond Bane at 6,400, 40% owned. Suggs, similar chalk on both sides of the coin. And then the Igor Demon does get to 12%, but it's nothing after that. No real love coming into Tristan De Silva either. 3,900, I think it's worth the flyer on FanDuel, but if you're playing on both sites, or if you're hearing people talk about this slate, the conversation about Orlando is dramatically different depending on which one you're playing on. So keep that in mind for while you're building out your lineups. Maybe if you're playing on both, then you probably got a decent chunk of Orlando on FanDuel and a different lineup set on DraftKings. I got nothing else here.
Yeah, me either. I think I'm ready to move on.
Well, this one's going to require some conversation, and most of what we say for the next 7 or 8 minutes will be probably useless, although actionable. Live before lock is going to be a big one here, although they might get the news right at the end of the wire, at which point you're going to want to come see Greg and I on playback. The Philadelphia 76ers and the Detroit Pistons. Let's just get to the most important part of this, because we don't have to hypothesize on what the line is right now. We don't know who's playing. VJ Edgecombe is questionable for Philly. We know that we don't have Joel Embiid. It doesn't stop there. It's the Pistons side that's a bit of a problem. They're already without Asar Thompson and Tobias Harris. Marcus Sasser and Jaden Ivey have been out. Cade Cunningham, Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Duren, all questionable. Everything changes based on this news. If they're all in, you can see what's on the screen right now. That's what's interesting. They're probably not going to be all in. Floor is yours, brother, because you've been looking at this.
Yeah, so the game opened up Pistons 6.5-point favorites. They're down to 3.5. I saw a video at shoot around. So Cade was not at shoot around. Duren was off to the side. Didn't see Isaiah Stewart. And you had Jenkins and Paul Reed with starter jerseys on, as well as Duncan Robinson, Javonte Green, and Ron Holland. So those were the starters last game. So right now, I do not think any of them play. Now, it's not a guarantee. I know we were talking about this a little bit before the stream that, like, you know, star players, like, yeah, they don't necessarily need to be at shoot around. Like, there's definitely a chance that the Cade can still play. But right now, I am assuming that all three are going to be out again. So if that is the case, then we're going to be looking to a lot of Jenkins and Paul Reed again.
Paul Reed, 5,800 today. Keep that in mind. Slightly different scenario for Paul Reed today than what we saw last time out. I don't remember what his salary was last time. 38 is the first thing in my brain, but that might be 43 was then my next thought.
I think he was in the low fours, if I remember correctly.
Was that 2 days ago?
It was a couple games ago, yeah.
He was 3,900.
Okay, you're right.
Shout out to me having that shit at a moments. That's fun. I'm really happy that I had that. That was really helpful. Chat got me too. Yeah, so obviously 5,800 and 3,900 will create a very different Paul Reed experience, but as a point per dollar play, he should still look pretty damn good. Dennis Jenkins is now 6,100. So some of this will be muted. Karis LeVert at 5,300 just appears to be locked into 21 minutes or something along those lines. Ron Holland has continued to just be a ghost in these situations. Do we do that again? We do. Yeah. I don't want them to be out.
You kind of want them or you kind of don't want them?
I don't want them to be out.
Yeah.
Or at least I'd like one of them to be in. Like, okay. It would be really cool if Beef Stew were just in.
Yeah. Like it's, I don't know. I kind of want them to be out, but I kind of want them to get ruled out like after lock. That's kind of.
Oh yeah, hope. I would much prefer to get this news at 7:01.
Yeah, that would be good.
But no doubt about it. Way better. I don't want to see this at all while I'm talking to you.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I think for me, the first guy that I look to, if all three are out, would be Jenkins. He basically just had the Cade Cunningham role last game. Yeah. He played 40 minutes, 69 passes made, 20 potential assists. Usage was great too on Jenkins as well. He got up 19 shot attempts. So he, I think, would be the first guy I would look to. And then the second guy would be Paul Reed. I know the price is up on Paul Reed all the way up to 5,800, but he still would stand out, in my opinion, as one of the better point per dollar plays in the slate if all those guys are out. He played 31 minutes, went for 63 fancy points last game. Don't think we can expect that again, but he would probably be the next guy. And then, unfortunately, I think we would have to consider Ron Holland. He's been really disappointing, but still reasonable price points. Still would expect him to have a little bit of a bigger role. As you mentioned, like the minutes are just kind of not there on LeVert. Only 22 minutes last game with everyone out. Guys like Javonte Green and Duncan Robinson, I think, would be in play. They're not really like standing out at their salaries, but I think they would be in play. And then it was Tolu Smith that got the backup 5 run last game. I know we had some questions like, we weren't exactly sure. Yeah. So he, I think, would be playable, kind of a similar type play to Mason Plumlee, who we'll talk about in a bit. So the Pistons would definitely be a team that I want some exposure to. But again, I think the first two guys would be Jenkins and Reed for me.
If you're right, and we get Isaiah Stewart out and Jalen Duren out, then we are going to get a matchup that is dueling revenge narratives. Paul Reed, the former Sixer, Andre Drummond, the former Piston, going back to Detroit. He's already 25% owned right now, Andre Drummond. Is he going to feel this one differently if it's Paul Reed? Because I feel like he gets up for this if he knows that Duren and Stewart aren't there. Because he knows that he can't get up for Duren anymore. Because Duren's just him, but 10 years his junior. If it's Paul Reed, I think in Andre Drummond's mind, he's just like, he's stretching extra in the tunnel today.
Yeah, I could see Drummond wanting to have some revenge there. And he's still honestly underpriced, in my opinion, with Embiid out. He's played 35 and 33 minutes in his last 2 starts. We know Drummond is still a good rebounder, even at this point of his career. So, I would like him more if Duren gets sold out. I think a little bit less foul risk, too, for Drummond. I think the ceiling is pretty high on him. Reasonable ownership.
Do you want to do anything with Philly here? I guess we are waiting on the news for Edgecombe. If he happens to be out, I think Quentin Grimes is going to get like a 6-minute bump.
Yeah,
he's probably just going out there and playing the whole shebang. Justin Edwards at that point probably becomes like a real shitty $3,800 small forward punt play. How are you handling Philly? Do you pay the 10-5 for Maxey?
Yeah, I think Maxey's interesting right now at very low ownership, 3%. So I have no issue with that. We've seen the massive ceiling for him. The minutes was it last game? Yeah, last game, kind of weird. He only played 34 minutes, but I would expect him to be around that 40-minute mark in a competitive game. Yeah. So 3% Maxey on this slate. Yeah, I would definitely have some interest there. And then I don't think I would get to like any of these other wings. I guess if Edgecombe plays, maybe, or if Edgecombe gets ruled out, maybe. But you do have Dominic Barlow back. I don't really know how that's going to work with guys like Watford and Justin Edwards. You mentioned Jabari Walker. So
you just named 4 of the exact same guy, and all you did was just like randomize basic names.
Yep. So I would probably just stay away from that group of guys.
It's one of those puzzles where it would be like Trendon, Justin, Dominic, Jabari, and then on the other side, it's those 4 last names, and you could draw those lines to all 4 of them, and I'd be like, yeah, that's probably the name of an NBA player. Trendon Barlow, Dominic Walker, that's all good. Those guys are. It's an annoying situation for today. Like, how does it? Because they were starting Barlow, but he was playing 16 minutes. Mm-hmm. How does that affect Watford? Does it matter? I don't know. I don't know if they care about any of these guys. It could matter, because if Edgecombe's out, that's a free 36 minutes or something like that we need to redistribute to these guys. But my expectation would be Grimes is immediately grabbing 6 of them or so, and that will make Quentin Grimes look quite a bit more interesting. We need the news.
For sure. Yeah, I think Grimes would be the biggest beneficiary in that scenario if Edgecombe gets sold out.
So one way or the other, we're going to get this news by 7:30, and we're going to be live no matter what, whether it's here, whether it's live before lock after us, or whether it's on playback. You want to just be hanging out with us to make sure that you get it. It's the easiest thing you could do. Portland and Houston. The best game on the slate, bar none, in terms of like actual basketball. Maybe not for people that are immense fans of offense, but defensively, it's a gem. DFS wise, not a lot going on here. The highest owned guy is Reed Shepherd at 18%. Jabari Smith and Tari Eason both snuck over 10. It's sub 10 for everyone else. Now, am I interested in guys like Şengün today? Yeah. Not a fun matchup against Donovan Clingan. Do you like anything here? Because I don't know what to do with this game other than just like watch it and enjoy it. But it stinks for DFS.
Yeah, I feel like I should want more of this game, but it's I don't know. There's not like anything that really sticks out to me. I think Şengün sub 5% is a good tournament play. We've seen, again, in competitive games, it's him and Amen Thompson are like usually pushing for like around 40 minutes. So Like he would definitely be in play. We do have a lot of good center plays though, so that's kind of the downside there. The guy getting the most love is Reed Shepherd at around 20%. That feels a little bit high to me. I know he's been playing better of late, three straight games of like mid-20s minutes, but like the minutes don't have to be there. We saw, 4 games before that, he was sub 20 minutes. So that one, the ownership feels a little bit high there on Reed Shepherd. Jabari Smith, a little over 10%, feels a little over-owned too. Eason at 4,600, I think is fine. The Portland side, it's a brutal spot here. So I understand why they're really not getting much ownership. Guys like Drew or Denny. The ball handling role has been great for Drew. The minutes are really solid too, but his price is up to 7,500. So I agree with you. Like, this is going to be a really good game. I want to try to watch them this game, but for DFS purposes, there's really nothing that stands out the page to me.
Yeah. Like, I'd like to like Reed Shepherd more. I'm nervous about it. And if he's already the guy to like, that doesn't make me feel any better. Şengün's 9,500. He's always live to give somebody to the business. Klingon is a uniquely large human being that can physically handle Şengün. A lot of centers can't. Klingon can. I feel like I haven't played Amen Thompson once this year, and I don't really know why that's the case. Denny's 9K. I don't know what to do with any of these prices right now. This is a game that I anticipate having a very minimal amount of. Now, if we look at it from the FanDuel side, it's mostly the same story, save for Drew Holiday. 6,900, point guard only. We've got him like a 30% boom, 25% owned, 25%-ish optimal. And then everything we just said about everybody else is the same thing on the FanDuel side. But, Drew looks fine. He found the fountain of youth in Portland. I don't know where it's at, but is he just rubbing himself with roses or something? I have no idea. Rose Garden, really sick in Portland. Kind of cool. Confirmed cool stuff. I got nothing else here, but I do have something fun to talk about. DK, you an MMA guy?
No.
Well, if you want to be, starting right now or at any time in the next day or so, big UFC card this weekend. So we figured UFC promo? Why not? Come on in, guys. The promo code is 322. And just for those that don't understand that, that's not like a percentage off. That's the number of the card. 50% off any MMA DFS package that we have. We've got oh my God, I can't talk. Jack Della Maddalena putting the title on the line against Islam Makhachev. It's going to be a big one here. Are we going to get a champ? I hope so. 2 title fights on this one. Loaded card. And you guys can get it for 50% off. We've got projections. We've got ownership. We've got essentially a boom bust tool of MMA. And we've got the Sims. And it's a fun product to use. MMA is one of the cooler sweats. It's one of the better DFS sweats that you're going to get, especially when you're live and you're just watching a fight and the swing is ridiculous because you could either win all of the money or no money in a split second from a punch to someone's face. You cannot beat that experience. The promo code is 322, 50% off any MMA DFS package at Stokastic.com. Link in the description. Oh, it's going to be a good card. You should watch it. At least seek out the main event. Seek out the co-main event, too. Those gals are going to go to war.
Is it Saturday night? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Saturday night. This is not going to be a war. This is the Charlotte Hornets against the Milwaukee Bucks. Very much less of a war because the Bucks have like a 5-star general, and I don't know what the comp would be on the other side, but they don't have it. But they do have Moussa Diabate, who is 4,200 center only, 50% owned, and getting the start because whatever the person is in Ryan Kalkbrenner's life is having a baby, and it's apparently his. Moussa Diabate season today, but this is not a good spot for Moussa Diabate.
Yeah, I'm Diabate. So again, expecting him to start here. He is on the year 1.17 fantasy point per minute player. I think if he avoids foul trouble and the game stays competitive, you're probably seeing like 28 minutes or so. But there's definitely some foul risks going on the opposite side when you have Giannis there. So I think Diabate stands out as one of the better point per dollar values right now on the slate, but the ownership is definitely high, and there's downside for sure. And so while I think he's someone that you definitely play in cash games, I think you could make the argument to get away from him in tournaments. And if you do, you have, this is disgusting to say, but min price Mason Plumlee coming in at no ownership right now, who again is not a good real life player at all, but he's their only other big. Diabate gets in foul trouble. You got Plumlee that would get extra minutes there, and he's still a pretty good point per minute player, even though he's not a great real life player. So I think Diabate is really good value, but I do think that Plumlee is an interesting leverage spot here on the slate.
Yeah. On paper, it's really difficult to dodge Diabate. If you're playing a cash game, he's probably the first name you click on. Detroit will start to move some of this ownership around if and when that news drops. But yeah, he's tough to get away from. I see the downside. I see Giannis Antetokounmpo in the NBA Cup just running through his chest like a freight train on the first two possessions. And all of a sudden, his ass is on the bench and Mason Plumlee's out there just getting beat like a drum. Mason Plumlee won't pick up those fouls because he won't have a chance to. Giannis will be 4 steps clear of him. He won't even have the opportunity. Unless you can pick up fouls based on breath, Mason Plumlee is not going to be picking them up. Giannis will be long gone. Moussa Diabate is going to try his hand and fail. That said, I expect to have him. It's just too good of a point per dollar play. But I will not be mad at all if I just kind of hold hands with the field here. I would like to not have a ton. I don't mind having a ton going into lock, though. If I have to move this around, so be it. 8 o'clock start. I've got some opportunities to offload it if need be. How do you feel about the opposite side here? Because I just talked about it a bit. 11-7 for Giannis in a matchup against the Charlotte Hornets in the NBA Cup. Reigning defending champs, I might add. Darvin Ham does not lose tournament games. He's going to smash these guys.
Yeah, there's really no one on the opposite side that can stop him here. Giannis to start the year was kind of limited to low 30s minutes usually every single night. But last 3 games that he's played, 37, 36, 37 minutes. As you mentioned, this is an NBA Cup game. So I think if it stays competitive, you're probably seeing that higher end, like the 36, 37 minute range. His numbers are great, right? About a 40% usage rate on the season, and absolutely love the matchup for him. So he's getting a lot of ownership right now with 30%, but I think he stands out as probably your best point per dollar spend up on the slate. Obviously there's some other guys you can get to as pivots in tournaments, but yeah, in a cash game especially, Giannis is a guy that I think looks amazing.
Yeah, I want to have a ton of this dude if I'm afforded that ability. But he's not the only guy getting ownership in this game. And the guy that is not somebody that I think people would expect right now. It's Cole Anthony, point guard, shooting guard eligible, 4K, 22% owned. And so people know, not starting.
Yeah, the Cole Anthony one is interesting. I know the price point is down. I was so it went absolutely awful for me last slate. Ryan Rollins was chalk. I played Cole Anthony as a pivot off him as a leverage play, and it just was Cole Anthony was 2 of 14 or something. Got extremely limited, so it went horribly wrong for me. But Cole Anthony still does have about a 25% usage rate on the season. The potential assists when he's out there are really solid too. He's got a strong ball handling role, so he's fine. I think the ownership's a little bit high. I think that will drop if we get some news, but he's in play because of the salary. If he plays well too, he does have the upside to play 25 or so minutes. You could see a little bit of overlap too with him and Ryan Rollins. So I understand why he's getting some ownership, but I think right now probably going a little bit overowned.
Any interest in anything else in this game other than obviously we've touched on the potential for Mason Plumlee if you are anti-Diabate, but you like anybody else here? Because I find them all Not all that interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I expect LaMelo to be limited, so I don't think it can go there. And like a lot of Charlotte has just been priced up from when he was out.
Yeah.
Ryan Rollins kind of priced up last game from when Giannis missed. Like you can still get to him at around, he's projected about 5% ownership, but I don't love that. So yeah, I think it's pretty hard to get to anyone else, especially on the Charlotte side.
I do agree. We've got 3 more to hit on the DraftKings side. We've also got an additional game to hit on the FanDuel side. So if you guys can hit the like button, that would help out a ton. Very easy to do. It looks like a thumbs up. You just click it, and then you don't have to worry about it ever again. It just helps us out, and it's over. Very easy. If you can do that, that would be great. Sacramento and Minnesota. Another real just unpleasant game. Oh, actually, sorry. Let me hit the Charlotte-Milwaukee side on the FanDuel end. Apologies. Don't want to go that fast because it's entirely different. Giannis is obviously Giannis and awesome in all places. Ryan Rollins is the only other guy getting real ownership here. Moussa Diabate is 5,300 on FanDuel and center only. He's 5% owned. So anything you hear about Diabate is DraftKings specific. On FanDuel, he is just a guy. So take that. That's big. If you're playing on FanDuel and you just heard all that and you're like, oh, I got to get to Moussa Diabate, not the same dude today. Playable, but not that interesting. That's a big caveat for today, considering how owned he is on the DraftKings slate. And we've got an update from 15 minutes ago. So that'll lead us to that turd that is Sacramento Kings taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And we have news here that we need to deal with. Domantas Sabonis is questionable. Malik Monk is questionable. And I think those 2 pieces of information are pretty damn important, unfortunately. When Sabonis isn't there, that's going to create a wealth of minutes in their front court. I guess we'd be doing the Drew Eubanks thing at least a little bit. And then we could have some conversations about what we want to do with Nick Clifford. But then on the Minnesota side, it makes me feel like Rudy Gobert is going to have 1,000 rebounds. As of right now, Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle are 20% owned apiece. Do you have any particular feelings about those 2 guys?
Yeah, I love the upside on Ant here. Sub 9K, absolutely love the matchup for him. So I like him a lot. Obviously, there's some concerns of can the Sacramento team keep it competitive on the road in Minnesota, but yeah, I really like Anthony Edwards. The 2 questionable players on the Sacramento side, Sabonis and Malik Monk, they both participated in shoot around, so I'm expecting both those guys to play. I'm hoping they play because I really don't want to deal with the Eubanks, Precious Achua type guys. I don't want to do that. So I think both those guys are in. And then for Minnesota, the role's been really solid for Jaden McDaniels. Small forward is pretty gross on the slate on DraftKings. So he's getting a little bit of love. The front court guys, Randall and Gobert, I think are reasonable options. Great spot for them. So those are guys you can definitely mix in too. So yeah, mainly looking to the Minnesota side. Sacramento, I mean, I'm expecting Sabonis and Monk to play, right? But I don't know what they're going to do with the starting lineup. They could definitely switch some things up. So, yeah, they could do a lot of different things. And a lot of these guys are priced up too. So I think it's still hard to make the argument for anyone on the Kings.
Yeah, if Sabonis ends up in, I'm very excited to not have these guys in any way. If he ends up out, I want to have a lot of Rudy Gobert. I think Rudy Gobert is just going to smash in this spot. I think he's going to clean everything up at 6K. That's a spot that I want to be. But again, if Sabonis is in, then give me some shares of Ant, give me some shares of Randall. I assume one of those 2 guys will be the reason that they beat the hell out of the Kings, and I'll be happy to have them. McDaniels, I agree, because of that small forward spot, I think is at least a little bit sneaky. But yeah, I don't know how anybody could look. I mean, the highest owned guy for Sacramento in this game right now is Sabonis at 1. Mm-hmm. They're so unappealing in real life. They become completely unappealing in DFS.
Yeah, this team's just a mess. Coach too has been like yelling at him last couple of games in the press conference. So yeah, they're going to blow it up this year for sure.
If Sabonis does happen to be out, are you going to look to like Precious Achua and Eubanks? Would that be like the first 2 dudes up? And then Clifford to some degree?
Yeah, I think those two front court guys, and then I would have a little bit of Anderson Westbrook. Just that the rebounding numbers would
Yeah.
go up for Westbrook. So like the price point is tough, but like I think he would be playable in that scenario. But I think the first two guys I would look to, would probably be Eubanks and Precious Achua.
Pretty similar story going on FanDuel right now, save for the fact that Russell Westbrook is the highest owned guy here at 17% ownership. Higher optimal from us as well. But there's just not a lot going on otherwise. Edwards actually a bit less owned here. Randall significantly less owned here, essentially unowned. He is 9,100, so that's not too surprising. But there's no ownership coming into Sacramento outside of Westbrook on FanDuel. That will go up if we lose Sabonis. Lakers Pels. God, I just wish some of these games were better basketball games. But this one's good for DFS purposes. It's just not going to feel good. So Lakers are like 10-point favorites here in New Orleans. We'll start on the Lakers side because there's two names to talk about, and then I think we could just write off the rest of the team. Austin Reeves is 8K, point guard, shooting guard eligible, 25% owned. Luka Doncic is 12K, point guard only, 15% owned. I like Reeves quite a bit at this 8K price tag. I'm at least curious about spending all the way up to a 12K Luka to watch him just eviscerate this Pels team.
Yeah, I really like Luka here at his ownership. Austin Reeves is projecting a little bit better point per dollar. He's a little bit easier to get to, right? He's 8K, does have shooting guard eligibility too. It is a little bit tougher to get to Luka in your lineups, but again, I think that's partly why the ownership projection is the way that it is. So, Luka as like a pivot off Giannis, for example. Giannis about 2x ownership right now. I think is definitely a play that you can make. Like I love the spot here for Luka. You've had the last couple of games have been blowouts for the Lakers, so don't really be worried about the minutes there. Like Luka in competitive games is pushing for like 40 minutes a night. So the two Lakers guards I think are both good options. The rest of the Lakers, I don't think you can really get to anyone else. I mean, I like the matchup for DeAndre Ayton, but there's just so many good center plays. So I think it's really hard to get to anyone else on the Lakers. The Pelicans are interesting. The minutes on Derek Queen last game were insane. So didn't start the game, but played 38 minutes. Misi, he got ejected that game, right? That's why.
He did. So he was a DMP CD in the first game back, coming from whatever his injury is that I don't remember. And then he was the last guy off the bench. Like he came in mid-second quarter. Everybody had already been in at that point, and he was in for like 90 seconds and got the gate.
I'm surprised how like far down the depth chart he is.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it right now, but like relatively healthy scratch. I know he's not healthy, and then to get tossed and be that last guy, like it doesn't feel like he's going to be getting anything real today.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to play much, even if he does play. But Derek Queen, they're like really running a lot of offense through him. I was looking at the numbers last game. He basically had like point guard numbers, 64 passes made. So again, they're running a ton of offense through him, kind of like a mini Jokic almost. So I don't think we're going to see 38 minutes again for Derek Queen, but still, even if you get like high 20s, low 30s, he stands out as a really good point per dollar option. So I like Derek Queen quite a bit. I know he's very popular, but I agree. I agree with the ownership. I think he looks like one of the best values right now on the slate. The rest,
I like Queen quite a bit. I'm anxious to hear where you're about to go here for the next guy.
Okay. So you got Fears pushing 30% ownership too, sub 5K. It feels a little bit high to me. There's not a ton of overlap right now with him and Alvarado. So I think he's fine, but I think he's going a little bit over-owned. Is that your thoughts as well, or?
Nope. No? I'm going to have too much of him. It won't be the first time I've done it this year. It's probably not going to be the last, but I'm going to have too much of this idiot today, unfortunately. Look, the good thing is, like, he wants to go out there and go crazy. So at the very least, I'm going to be cheering for someone that has that right mindset. I just don't know, like on most days in his rookie year, he ain't going to have it. But I think this is a kind of decent spot to try to have it if you're going to have it at 4,800. I am uncomfortably high on Jeremiah Fears. I don't like it. It. You can tell me I'm dumb because I'd like a bunch of people to tell me I'm dumb and talk me out of it before we get to 7:00.
I mean, the thing with Fears is he's still like a high usage player. And if this guy's making the shots, like, yeah, the ceiling's there. So I understand why you're high on him. I just think, again, there's someone in the next game we'll talk about who I like as a pivot at the guard position at a similar price point. And maybe that's part of the reason why I'm not as high on Fears. So, the rest of the team, Saddiq Bey at around 20%, also to me feels a little bit high. I know he's been playing better of late. Minutes have been solid for him. I think partly why he's getting a lot of his ownership, though, is because the small forward position is really weak today. But yeah, not a ton else here for me. I think Trey Murphy is interesting. 7,700 is not the best price point, but we've seen the ceiling games for him. He's definitely the guy with the high ceiling on this team. So he's someone you can mix in tournaments. I think that's totally fine.
Alvarado, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, DeAndre Ayton, Marcus Smart, Rui, anything? I don't think so.
Yeah, not much else for me.
If Trey Murphy had a shooting guard, small forward MPE, he'd be kind of sneaky today. But he doesn't. He's just a $7,700 shooting guard, and that's not all that appealing. I don't know. FanDuel, we're coming for you. Lakers Pels. Got about 12 minutes to go before we turn this one over to live before lock. So hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. It is incredibly helpful. 15% ownership to Austin Reeves. 15% ownership to Derek Queen. Close enough to 15 on Saddiq Bey. Nothing else here. Luka 12-6. So even less ownership on FanDuel for this game than we're getting on DraftKings. And then we get to the DraftKings final game. 8:30 late night hammer. Clippers, Mavs. These two teams are just both embroiled in the two dumbest scandals in basketball, whether it's carbon credits or Nico Harrison. It's all bad. 20% ownership to Ivica Zubac. Everybody else is 10 or less. But we do have some things to wait on here. We did get news Derek Lively's probable, so I guess he's probably due to be out again next week. But PJ Washington is questionable, as is Anthony Davis. I don't know what to do with these guys right now. I don't expect Anthony Davis to play, but he's probably just going to pop up and play one random day, and we're not going to see it coming too. I don't know what to do there. How are you feeling about PJ Washington, first and foremost?
Yeah, so I think he's a little bit more 50-50 on whether or not he plays. I agree with you on Anthony Davis. I don't think he plays at shoot-around. He was off to the side. He wasn't participating, so I'd be pretty surprised if AD plays. PJ, again, I think is a little bit more 50-50. It's a shoulder sprain, I believe. So that one's tricky. Again, it is the late night hammer. If he does not play, I would assume that Najee Marshall would start, and he would be like an interesting tournament play. Right now, getting basically no ownership. So keep an eye on that. Again, I think Najee Marshall could be a pretty interesting play there. But the guy that I was talking about as a pivot off of Fears for me would be Brandon Williams right now, projecting for about 10% ownership. I know he's a little bit more expensive, but I really like the role here for Brandon Williams. Again, I'm not expecting Anthony Davis to play. There's definitely a chance PJ Washington doesn't play either. 33 minutes in each of the last two games. He's leading the team potential assists, about 50 passes made per game, 12.5 potential assists in those two starts. Usage has been solid for him as well. So I like Brandon Williams a good amount here. And if that ownership is going to hold, I think he's a really solid tournament play. So I'm kind of hoping we don't get this Anthony Davis news until a lot later.
I'm with you on Brandon Williams. He seems to be like the only guy that can be out there, play point guard, and like not destroy them, because hasn't been going great for D'Angelo Russell, and Cooper Flagg should be playing the 4, not the 1. So not ideal from that regard. This one's tough. If AD is out, I have like a little bit more interest in Zoo, but he just hasn't been right. And I'd like to trust John Collins here stepping into this role. I don't. I'd like to trust James Harden here. I don't. I want to like this game more than I do. Like, I feel like I'm going to end up with like Chris Dunn today. And that's the most disgusting thing I can do.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like this Clippers team for tournaments as well. I mean, Zubac, again, is the one guy getting ownership right now at around 20%. If AD is out, again, I think I like him a little bit more. I think you'd probably see around that 35-minute mark in a competitive game. On the year, he's sitting about a 1.15 fantasy point per minute player. So totally fine with Zubac, but a little bit more interest in the rest of this team too. James Harden is a contrarian spend up sub 10%. Again, no Chris Paul. The minutes of Bogdanovich, some games he's DMPing, some games he is playing off the bench, but like James Harden is just doing everything for this team right now.
Christian Brown out 6 weeks.
Oh, wow. That's kind of random.
Get ready to fire up your Tim Hardaway Juniors.
Yep. But so I think Harden, pretty solid tournament play here at his ownership.
Yeah.
And then honestly, like I do have a little bit of interest in Chris Dunn at 4,300. He got in massive foul trouble last game, only played 15 minutes, but the previous two games, 36, 33 minutes. So I think if he avoids foul trouble, he's probably going to be in that low 30s minute range. Again, he's not like great point per minute, but at no ownership, I think I would be inclined to be a little bit overweight to that if I was MMEing. So I think he's viable in a large field tournament. And then, you mentioned John Collins. He's been starting. It's just not been great. He's kind of been standing in the corner a lot, but he's also getting very low ownership. So another guy I think you can mix in too.
I don't think it was necessary for you to call John Collins a cuck, but that's fine. We could look at the FanDuel side of this one. Let's grab the Clippers. And let's go ahead and grab. Oh my God, I already am so stupid that I can't remember who the Clippers are playing. The Mavericks. I'm so over the Mavs. Like I don't even acknowledge them as a team anymore. Very different slate on the FanDuel side. James Harden, 9K, point guard, shooting guard eligible, 25% owned, 25% optimal. You see Brandon Williams here at 15. You do get a little bit more love here for John Collins. Not as much love for Ivica Zubac, but not as surprising either. Only one center spot on FanDuel. You're not going to see those same kind of numbers. But this is a spot where if you are a little bit more of a James Harden guy, it's probably more of a FanDuel play than a DraftKings play. But maybe people are already there on FanDuel and you want to be on Harden on the DK side. We've got one more game left. The late night hammer for FanDuel. Shout out DraftKings for dropping this one for us. Golden State, San Antonio. And there's nothing happening here. Apologies. This filter is kind of weird because they're playing the Spurs. It filters to SA, which also includes the Kings. Odd quirk. But since they're not getting any ownership either other than Russ, it's 12% to Curry and a completely unowned everybody else. Now, no Kuminga for this one on the Golden State side. San Antonio looking normal and relatively full strength, although Julian Champagnie is questionable. Is there anything interesting to you here for Golden State? Do you have any idea who they're going to start? Is it going to be the same five guys they started against the Spurs 2 days ago?
I have no idea. Yeah, last game they started Richard and Moses Moody, but they could very easily switch it up. I would not be surprised. Looking at the ownership right now for this game, I think I agree. Like Steph Curry, 8,500. That's a reasonable price point, 10%. Definitely someone you can mix in. But the rest of Golden State, not a ton here. I mean, Draymond's 5,300. I guess he's playable, but I don't know. Golden State's still running a very deep rotation, and I don't trust a lot of it too with Steve Kerr. So yeah, there's not much else here, I think, outside of Steph.
I'm with you. Wemby, 12-4 power forward center eligible here. Tough to make him look better than Giannis in this spot, that's for sure. Especially on a day where like Al Horford is not sitting. You'd like to get there on days where they don't have that extra body, especially with Kuminga gone. And then we start bringing in like guys like Towns. As always, if you want to be playing Victor Wembanyama, by all means, because there's just going to be some games where he has a stat line that is silly and has a fantasy point total that has 3 digits. I don't expect that to be today. It's just not my spot.
Yeah, he's someone you definitely can play. It's nice that on FanDuel he's got the power forward eligibility, so like a little bit easier to get him in. But I think he's really the only guy I would consider on San Antonio. Like looking at the salaries here, like Fox is up to 76, Castle's up to 81. I think it's tough to make the argument for either of those guys. I know the minutes have ticked up for De'Aaron Fox, but like that price point feels right. So I don't think there's anyone else I would get to on San Antonio.
This is so great. I love chat. Back-to-back messages. Austin. Kerr said Richard and Moody will stay in the lineup, but it's Steve Kerr. LOL. Jeremiah Johnson. Kerr did say that Moody and Will Richard would continue to start going forward, so expect them to come off the bench. It's just like clockwork. Even chat knows. That's such a dickhead when he comes to a coach.
I never trust a word that he says. Like, I need to see the actual starting lineup. Like, whether he says something, like so-and-so is going to start the next game. Like, I don't trust it. He lies all the time.
No.
So,
unless it's Steph and he's playing. That's it. That's probably the only one I'm going to care about.
True.
Other than that, I'm never going to Steph's not coming off the bench if he says it. I will never believe that one. Other than that, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. This is a fun slate. We got to get this Detroit news. All right, I'm gonna ask you. That game locks at 7:30. What time do we get the Detroit news?
I'm hoping 7:01 Eastern.
You and me both. Because I'm hoping for that, my expectation is 6:01 Eastern, and it becomes totally meaningless to have any sort of action item on. Guys, this is the end of the deeper dive, but you are in luck. Nothing stops unless you don't hit the like button. Then the screen goes black. But Live Before Lock is coming up next. DK, tell the people where to find you.
Yeah, you can find me over on Tails. So currently doing content for both DFS as well as for player props. So I'm posting some free content over there as well if you guys are interested. And I do have premium packages too. Player props I'll do, Sportsbook, pick'em stuff. And then for DFS, I do streams every day before lock, kind of talking through game theory, helping you guys build lineups. If you guys are interested in that, again, it's all over on Tails.
And there it is, folks. The deeper dive is in the books. And in 50 seconds, it will technically be time for Live Before Lock. But I'm willing to let these two men encroach on our final chunk of time. Greg Ehrenberg is here. Chris Spags is here. And they will be taking you all the way up until 7 p.m. At which point, myself and Greg, unfortunately no Tony Reali this time, we will be going to playback. Man, from Tony Reali down to Chris Spags, that is a drop in Italian.
Only one of them has been fired by Barstool, though. Just saying. Only one of them have. So that is something you guys should be pretty excited about, is that you are going to be joined by, I should probably add Spags to the stage. I don't know if he can. There we go.
All the people to misquote that. I did not get fired. I left on my own volition and took a buyout and signed an NDA, Greg. Man, I feel like there's an HR issue here now.
You can't seem
Spags,
cooler.
just out of curiosity, what are your thoughts on Rihanna?
Still a piece of shit.
She is pregnant, isn't she?
Billionaire, though.
What's up, boys? What's up, boys?
Yeah, it is. I'm actually really interested in this slate in general. And anytime there's a lot of injury news, I generally think that's a good slate for us as people who late swap, people who look for edges in DFS and, really pay attention and are on the ball with all this stuff. So first off, Josh, DK, get the hell out of here, guys. It's our time to shine here. So like the
could have said yes, goodbye or something. That would have been nice. Adios.
Later, guys. So I love this slate, Spags. I don't know about you, how you feel about it, but these kinds of slates where we have got just an abundance of injury news, and I'll give you guys the entire rundown of everybody who's currently on the injury report. We are looking at Cade Cunningham, questionable. Anthony Davis, questionable. Jalen Duren is questionable. Domantas Sabonis is questionable. Isaiah Stewart is questionable. PJ Washington is questionable. VJ Edgecombe is questionable. Malik Monk is questionable. These are the kinds of slate spags that we are going to see ourselves more often than I have highest sim ROIs. Nothing's ever guaranteed in terms of, I'm going to win a GPP on a given night. But these are the nights I feel like we have the best chance to win and we have the best edge on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the late swap tool alone, being able to move to that. Like I know, Josh and DK said, I'd love to get the Detroit news at 7:01. I don't agree with that take, but I also very much, I think, represent the field here where I'd love to get all the NBA news done by 6:30. So even while I'm on stream here, I can get my stuff in, have some amount of control of what I'm putting in. But when you are using Stokastic tools, again, in particular, the late swap tool, you're getting things that are getting simmed out correctly. If you're using Stokastic data for that or uploading your own projections, it's built off of something that's rooted in actual data. And I think that's an important part for slates like this, where I feel like, Greg, this time of year in NBA, it's usually teams are healthy, it feels like, and playing for the most part. And this has been the most injury-riddled start to an NBA season that I can recall. And every night it feels like we're having to pivot a lot. So a late swap tool helps out a lot in that process.
Yeah, and today is an NBA Cup night, so a potential for a little bit more minutes for the starters and key players, especially once you get, a couple of NBA Cup games under their belt. Teams start to look a little bit more at the point differential and things along those lines. So definitely something that could have a little bit of an impact on today's slate. I am curious because we have so many players that are questionable in the injury report that we just went over, Spags. Of all the guys who are questionable, do you have any particular leans on individual guys being in or out?
No, I mean, at this point, I would say we've talked about it before, where usually the late day downgrade is something where you're looking for guys not to play. But today, I feel like hasn't really been anybody that's moving in a certain direction where I would expect them to not be in. I haven't seen shoot around reports as well for like Detroit. I don't know if there was anything floating around out there, but I didn't see it today amidst doing my various content for NFL and NBA. But I always like to assume that the guys are going to play and then kind of panic swap around. If not, for Detroit, it's really going to mess me up if Isaiah Stewart doesn't play, because I've had him now really well projected all day, and my lineups are kind of built off of certain contingencies around him. And if he's out, I'll get a ton more Duren. I'll get a ton more of whatever secondary Pistons pieces, I guess. But really, I don't know. I'm kind of prepared for anything, Greg. Is there anything you're looking for that you want to lead the conversation on?
Yeah. So, I mean, the Anthony Davis news is so weird to me because on multiple angles. First off, we're like 2 days removed from getting, Nico Harrison gets fired. And then we hear also that the Mavericks are going to be really cautious with Anthony Davis, and they might hold him out for an extended period of time. They're potentially seeking for trade partners to move him somewhere else, and that they want to make sure that he's completely 100% before he gets back. My thought on that is I'm expecting the next day to get a report that Anthony Davis is going to be out like 4 to 6 weeks or something like that. And I thought his career as a Maverick is totally done. But then the injury report comes out and he's questionable to play tonight. I'm like, well, this seems very opposite to the news that we just heard about him potentially getting traded and then wanting to be really cautious. But supposedly he did not participate in shoot around or practice today. He was sitting off the side with the team. I think I heard DK bring that up on the deep dive as well. So I am currently expecting Anthony Davis to sit. And what I did is I zeroed him out in my projections. I gave little bumps to other players on the Mavericks that I think could potentially benefit from that sort of situation. The one thing, though, that is worth noting is that Anthony Davis has already been out for a few games. So it's not like there's some sort of massive misprices on this team. The team's kind of been priced at this point as if he was going to be out. But PJ Washington is also questionable. So in the event that, and I feel pretty good that Anthony Davis sits, PJ Washington, I'm not really sure, but I think it makes sense to give little boosts to guys like Cooper Flagg, Brandon Williams, Najee Marshall, Max Christie. And then in the event that Anthony Davis and PJ Washington are ruled out, you've got this game that locks at the Dallas game, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. So it's the final game on the DraftKings slate, the second to last game on the FanDuel slate. I think that's where there's a real edge to be had if AD doesn't get ruled out until later in the day.
I think it's reasonable. And, the Clippers defense this year, I updated some of my numbers. Actually, one of our regulars in chat here at Stokastic, Josh, not Josh Engleman, but Josh starts with a G, his last name. I pointed out like the Heat having the top pace in the league. And I'm like, wait a minute, I must be waiting last season's data a little bit too much because that wasn't showing for me. So updated some stuff today. And the Clippers are giving up 120 points per 100 possessions, which seems kind of crazy for me to see that a number that high for a team that is really built around the concept of being solid defensively. So I agree conceptually with what you're saying. I think like the tough part that you mentioned is that if you get just AD out, I think the team is kind of appropriately priced. If you do get AD and Washington out, that's kind of the situation that I've been waiting for Cooper Flagg, because I think he's sort of, I'll say gun shy. I mean, he's only 18 years old, but like it seems like he doesn't want to force usage as much as he can, or as he, the team would be totally happy to give him because of the fact you have PJ Washington out there a lot. He defers even the Brandon Williams, Najee Marshall more than you'd like to see. But you take two of those guys out, AD he's already been out, and you take out Flagg, you take out Washington. I think that's where Flagg maybe has the upside to really hit. But I'm just not preparing for it in any real way. Like I have a lot of Zubac in that game, so I feel like I'll have some swap ability. The 8 o'clock games, I'll have a lot more swap ability. But if Dallas ends up being a treasure trove of value and they all don't play, or, AD and Washington don't play, I'm not going to be as prepared for that, I don't think, because I just don't have any many players in that game, and I'm not going to prepare for it, I guess, in that same way.
So one thing that is kind of interesting to me about Flagg is we always see these young rookies, especially the super talented ones. Nobody has quicker growth in the first couple of years than these sorts of players. Like even Wemby struggled at the start of his rookie year. And there was a point in time where people were like, oh, Wemby bust. Chet's actually the better rookie. And there was a point in time where I believe there was a point in time where Chet was actually favored to win Rookie of the Year over Wemby because of some of his early season struggles. But Cooper Flagg, the last 3 games, has seen a usage rate of 25.5%, 23%, and 22.5%. His overall usage for his rookie season, it is currently sitting at, 20.6%. So we have actually seen 3 games in a row where his usage has been up relative to his season average. And I do wonder if he's starting to get a little bit more assertive. And then also, not for nothing, but I think the last 2 games are the best 2 games he's played of the entire season, particularly the game against Milwaukee. That was the game where if you guys watched that game, it was like, oh, this is the ceiling of Cooper Flagg, where he's 26 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. While they didn't ultimately end up winning the game, he did hit a go-ahead basket over Giannis with like 8 seconds left in the game or something like that. And when that happened, it was like, oh, okay. You could really clearly see the future star potential in Cooper Flagg. So I think it's only a matter of time before he really starts to break out. And if we do see no PJ Washington and no Anthony Davis, I think he's a pretty interesting contrarian option.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. I feel like for a guy who's 7,500, I don't want to have to plan my whole night around it and then for him to not play and lose out on some of the better, value guys along the way. But I think these are 2 different approaches. And, again, I think too, if you have enough lineups you're putting in and also you're playing enough players from hopefully the 8 o'clock and 8:30 games, hopefully the late swap tool will give you enough that comes up. I just think PJ Washington's going to play. So I think that's part of my brain block with it as well.
Certainly a possibility that we see PJ Washington out there. There's no doubt about it that is probably one of the more likely outcomes here. But let's get to some of your guys' super chats as well as questions in Discord. And then Spags and I will react to any of the news as it comes. VJ Edgecombe, we just found it as a game time decision. That is a 0 update that is helpful to us in any kind of way, but it is news that we now have.
And the Pistons too, by the way. The 3 key Pistons also game time decisions. So we are just going to sit on that. And yeah, you're not going to use a late swap tool tonight, it seems.
Yeah. And one thing, if we don't have that news in the next, like 20, 30 minutes, then what you and I will have to start to do is figure out like, all right, what do we want to avoid from the early games to try to backload our lineups to give us more swappability. But Phoenix Reeves has a couple of 2v2s for us. One is Queen or Bay. All right. So between Queen and Bay, that is going to be Derek Queen for me.
Yeah, I think that's an easy Derek Queen for me. I'm intrigued to see his minutes today. I think there is a chance that he doesn't quite get the 38 or whatever he had last game. But Queen is really, they seem to be liking him a lot, and he does a lot of everything. So I think that's easy Queen.
And then McBride or Suggs, that is going to be Suggs for me. Also, a bunch of guys who are dealing with different injury situations as well. So Pelicans shorthanded. The Knicks have no Jalen Brunson. The Magic have no Paolo Banchero. So all these guys are viable value options for different reasons. But for me, Suggs over McBride.
Yeah, Suggs has played really well this year. I unfortunately played too much of him on the last slate where there was better values that opened up, but he's produced like 1.2, 1.3 fantasy points a minute this year. And in general, does gain a good amount from court time without Paolo Banchero going back to last year. So I think Suggs, yeah, the fact that he also didn't go off last game, maybe keeps people off the scent a little bit more. I like Suggs a lot tonight.
Now, let's see if there's any questions that have come to us in Discord. If not, we'll start to look at just some of the general overall projections and what we make of that for today. But here we go in Discord. We've got JEW wants to know any exposure caps for DraftKings or favorite boosts for Max, and then a DK single entry must-haves. All right, so let's address this in different parts. The first one I want to talk about is who are the single entry must-haves. So Spags, if you're building a single entry tournament lineup right now on DraftKings, who are the players you would say, I just can't go without this guy from the slate?
I think Diabate has to be the first one for me. I find it hard to believe he doesn't give you, let's say 25, but I think realistically he's going to get you around 30 barring foul trouble or something weird happening. Just a big spot being vacated by not having Kalkbrenner in today. The projection for me is a little bit aggressive, but at 4,200, I think he's pretty strong if he's producing around 1.1 fantasy points per minute, which is when he's basically been his entire career, but let alone this year. So he'd be my first one. Besides him, I'm really big on Franz Wagner. The ownership is not there though. So if you want to give a chalkier play instead of Franz, I just like Franz upside quite a bit with Paolo out. I just think when you take a black hole of usage like Banchero out, everybody there is going to look better. But Wagner has produced 1.3 fantasy points a minute without Banchero over the last year and change, gains huge amounts of usage and assist upside. So I like him a lot for single entry, even though I think like Diabate and him are like totally different plays today.
Yeah, Diabate, really, really strong one. I typically hesitate to call centers a must play, but at $4,200, it's such a strong value. It shows up in so many lineups when you just run the Sims unencumbered. Jalen Suggs, we just talked about him before. That's going to be another one for me. No Paolo Banchero, so just makes a whole bunch of sense to be getting to Jalen Suggs. Isaiah Stewart projects really well for us, but for right now, I'm going to hesitate to call him must play just because he's, questionable. So we don't actually know if he's going to be in or not. So in terms of must plays, I'm really just going to say Suggs and Diabate right now. This isn't going to be quite must play sort of territory, but I'm curious to know who is your favorite spend up option for single entry. I think there's multiple directions you could go to the point where I wouldn't say somebody is a must have, but if you had to pick one, who are you going to?
I built fairly balanced today. Like I didn't get as much Giannis as I think the field's going to get. Towns, I would say, would be one. I also got a good amount of Luka because Austin Reeves comes up a lot free naturally. So in lines where I'm not getting Reeves, I'm trying to get more Luka. So I would say Luka, I guess, in terms of like the real pay-ups, but in terms of like across, my lineups, I'm getting the most Cat at 9,400. And I feel like he's enough of the pay-up that he should count.
So for me, I'm going to go Cat with no Jalen Brunson. I'm kind of surprised he's not more popular. Cat, we've got him, obviously not unowned. He's 26% owned over on DraftKings. And then on FanDuel, we've got Cat much more popular at 40% owned. His price point is also broken at $8,900 over on FanDuel. But this was a DraftKings question that we got asked. So looking at $9,400, I think he should be higher owned than the 26% with Jalen Brunson out. This should funnel more of the usage to Cat. You look at some of the other players that are going to be available for the Knicks that are their, key players, whether it be Bridges or Anunoby. They're not really guys who create their own offense. They're guys who, when they have available shots, they could take them and knock them down. But I think Cat should command a pretty sizable usage rate today. And he's my favorite overall spend up option on the slate. I was initially expecting he was going to be like 40% owned on DraftKings, kind of like what he is on FanDuel. So I do think he's under owned on the DraftKings side. I'm going to go with Cat there.
Yeah, I think Cat's a really strong play today. And certainly for him, Brunson's usage has been up this year. His assist rate's been up a little bit this year as well. So just kind of opening up some of that for Cat to apparently, according to some of the coach speak, going to get some more chances to run the offense through him for as long as Brunson will be out. So I think for Towns, I'm with you. I'm surprised he's not a little bit higher owned, but I do think there's a lot of ways to build that don't include him. So it also kind of makes sense on the slate. It's really a slate where you have a lot of different ways to build, I think. And a lot of plays I would have thought would have come mega chalk or not as chalky as they might have been.
Mr. Cool Cam wants to know some of my favorite plays for a FanDuel GPP. So some guys are just massively chalky, but make a whole lot of sense, like Andre Drummond or Miles McBride. But if I'm going to look at some lower owned options for a GPP on FanDuel, Derek Queen, he's only 14% owned with power forward and center eligibility. That makes a lot of sense to me. Also on FanDuel, if you want to have somebody in a later game, Russell Westbrook at $6,500. Sabonis and Monk are both questionable, as is Westbrook projects decently. But if you get the scenario where Monk and Sabonis are out today, then all of a sudden Westbrook projects really well and he's going to be really underowned. So I like him as a tournament flyer, and then same with Josh Hart as well. So one thing that we are seeing with Knicks players here on the FanDuel side is while Cat is pretty popular, the other Knicks guys not all that highly owned. Josh Hart just 16% ownership. I like getting overweight to him. So those are a couple of strong GPP options for me. Kevin Cash App wants to know, how much exposure would I want from the Miami and Knicks game in single entry, DraftKings specifically? How much? I mean, it's kind of hard to answer. So I guess he wants to know, like, what's the optimal amount of players to play from the Knicks Heat game in single entry? I mean, Cat would be one for me. I don't really like that many guys from the Miami side, though.
Yeah, counting for the swappability part too, I wouldn't load up on that game. Like, you're giving away all your flexibility on the first game. And if you're playing a high dollar single entry, especially, you're going to get swapped to death if you load up on this game and it doesn't hit. And like, I personally would say Cat feels like a very strong play. Anunoby and Bridges, I think, are good. Bridges' assist upside might be a thing that matters a little bit more with Brunson off. He's had a 20% assist rate on the year. And obviously with Brunson being such a valid creator, in addition to high usage guy, that might come up. But I get liking this game. I think if I were going to play guys from it in a single entry, it'd be Cat, and I could probably live with nobody else.
Yeah. On the Heat side, boy, am I getting like anybody from the Heat in a meaningful way? And then like Spag said too, keep in mind that you want to have some flexibility for late swap today. The most exposure I currently have to any player on DraftKings from the Heat is 6% of Pelle Larsson. I wouldn't play anybody from the Heat in single entry. That's pretty easy for me.
Yeah, it's a big pace down for him. You know, with them playing so fast this year, you know, Knicks losing about 6 possessions on that. And really, these guys are all priced up because they've had random spike games. The way the Heat are playing this year is like a lot of random guys driving, kicking out over and over again. There's been some advanced analytics articles about it that I thought were pretty interesting. But the net result is like these guys have all kind of spiked randomly because the way the offense works is not one guy who's facilitating the entire offense. And it kind of comes out in the projections where they all seem like they're playable, but none of them look particularly good.
Then Einstein wants to know from us, what are our thoughts on Şengün and Cade as pay-up options? Don't really like either of them all that much for different reasons. First, as far as Şengün goes, the center position is loaded today, and it's hard for me to justify Şengün. What I'd prefer to do is play the value centers like Diabate or like Drummond. You got Derek Queen with power forward center eligibility. And then I'd rather spend up at some of the other positions that don't contain as much value, or just somebody like a Cat who is, you know, I know that he's pulling some ownership, but not a crazy amount. Went over this before, 26% over on DraftKings. So I'd rather pay up for guys who either have positionality that doesn't include a lot of value, or just themselves, like Cat, Brunson out. He is value from that sense. So for Şengün, that's a no for me because of the value at the position. And then for Cade, he is so expensive. And maybe I'm just sticker shock and I'm kind of on the wrong side of Cade because I know he's been ridiculous this year. But should he really be priced about the same as Giannis and Luka? Like, I'd rather just pay up for Giannis or Luka, which you can't really do if you play Cade.
Yeah, I think that's the tough part with Cade is like, I just don't know what to expect of him, especially if you were to have him playing and Duran and Stewart out, if that's the way that works out. I don't think it is. It seems like what the chat was saying, apparently there's some reports out there that it was Paul Reed and Dennis Jenkins with starters jerseys. I don't know if I buy that and shoot around, but that definitely could be a thing that signals for these guys not going. But yeah, with Cade as it is, like he shot 46 times last game. I suppose he could do that again, but it doesn't seem like that's an outcome that happens very often for many basketball players. So I don't think you'd expect that. And with his price tag now, kind of seems like it's built in. His underlying rates as well. He technically has had a little bit less usage and a little bit lower assist rate this year overall than he had last year. So even though it's spiked recently with Tobias Harris going out, Asar Thompson going out, It's really not as high overall. So I don't think he's an appreciably better player this year. He's obviously had enough times. Şengün, I think you make a better case for going against Portland. His matchup versus Klingon, like that's one that he can win even if he gets blocked a few times more as a result. I think Şengün's a valid tournament play. Cade, I really don't know how you get there at the price tag. It feels like you're paying for all the previous production.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also the overtime games, the game, that stat line he had against the Wizards is one of the most insane ones I've ever seen. He took 46 shots. He was wildly inefficient, but it is kind of hard to have a bad game when it goes to overtime. You're taking 40 plus shots. But yeah, I think you're paying a ceiling price for Cade. I'd rather go to other pay up options. Coach DFS wants to know the absolute must plays for cash games today. All right, so this is a little bit different, obviously, than when we're talking about tournaments. So if we're just looking at the cash game side of things, considering the information that we have right now, even though it's the early locking game, I think Suggs must have in cash games. I think Diabate must have in cash games. I think Cat is a must have in cash games. Let's see. Is there anybody else I call a must have in cash? Maybe Giannis.
Derek Queen comes with some risk, but I feel like, to me, ownership and the projection, I think, would put you on him for a cash game.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, too, that's kind of nice about with all the news that we have today, I'll agree with you. I'm going to say at least starting with Derek Queen. I don't think you necessarily have to finish with Derek Queen in your cash game lineup, but at the very least, I'd start with it. He locks at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So in this scenario where Detroit guys get ruled out or other guys get ruled out late, it'll be pretty easy to swap off of him. So he's like start with him in your cash game lineup. If better values open up, swap off him. Do you think that's a fair way to characterize it?
Yeah, I think it's a good one because, again, that'll give you some swappability, not all the way to the last game if that does change meaningfully for Clippers and Dallas. But I think Queen, to me, I think he's a good cash game play to have as a placeholder, even if you end up feeling like you need to swap off it later. You said it perfectly.
All right. And a super chat here from Sean Raza. Sean wants to know thoughts on Herb Jones for a FanDuel GPP. Well, for starters, he is somebody who profiles a little bit better on FanDuel than DraftKings in general, just because of his defensive stats, those being worth 3 points over on FanDuel as opposed to the 2 points over on DraftKings. I have 8% of Herb Jones in the last run of lineups that I did over on FanDuel. Really, the only potential knock against him here is just, will better plays open up over the course of the night? I think he looks fine now, but my best guess is that I'm going to end up swapping him to a lot of other players as the slate goes on. I don't know if you have any particular Herb Jones takes for tonight.
Yeah, I'm not. I always have a ton of Herb Jones takes. It's one of the things people know about me. First and foremost, I think he's an okay player normally. If you get him in a lineup, I'm not mad at it. I just don't think that the projection really seems like a guy that you have to go out of your way for. And him, it's a small sample size to start the year as well, but he's not really getting as many steals, barely getting any blocks this year. Like, I don't know if the motivation's there for a defensive stopper on New Orleans right now. So I'm not crazy about him as a play, but if he's your one unique play, it's ever going to kill you probably.
And then we got a question here from Hotwire76. All right, he's up to date on the latest email practices. But Hotwire76, he wants to know, does Russ look better than Edwards if Sabonis gets ruled out? No, I would not project. I mean, this is all relative, right? Points per dollar, sure. But just who projects for more fantasy points? It's still Anthony Edwards over Russell Westbrook. I mean, probably even if everybody, if Russell Westbrook was playing by himself and everybody was out for the Kings, it's probably still Edwards in that scenario.
It gets close. I think if they're missing all the lead guards and Sabonis, I think you make the case that Russ absorbs enough in every category that it might get in the range projection wise. But yeah, like you generally want to always play the guys like, Greg mentioned this a couple of weeks ago or whenever Anthony Edwards came back. Time flies when you're having fun. It was just like he was too cheap for what the role was, and that was the case. And now he's been priced up back to where he is. You want to be price sensitive about these guys and be mindful of the fact that Russell Westbrook is always going to be priced 6 to 7K, even if you get a million Kings out. Whereas, Ant's going to be generally at least 8K, if not more likely 9 to 10.
All right, so we've got 36 minutes to go until locks bags, and we did find out our Anthony Davis. He's officially in, but we are missing out on a lot of news. VJ Edgecombe is questionable. We still have got all the Detroit guys is questionable. We've got a good value situation on the Knicks. Jalen Brunson's out. We've got a good value situation on Orlando. Paolo Banchero is out. But what are you going to do with players in the first games on the slate? We've only got 2 games, Miami, New York, Brooklyn, Orlando, when considering that we could have a lot of better value opening up later on in the night as guys get ruled out. So how are you going to approach the first couple games on the slate? Are you going to do negative ROI boost anybody in the first couple games? You're going to boost somebody in the later games? How do you want to navigate your lineups to make sure you still have swap ability heading into lock?
So I am still going to play Orlando as much as I can get them, even though that is definitely one of the teams that will take away a good amount of flexibility. But the spot here going against a Brooklyn team that's giving up a ton of points per 100 possessions, giving up 126 points per 100, I believe would make them currently the worst defense in basketball. There might be night to night a few that will sway around that range as well. And then the fact that you have, Franz Wagner, Desmond Bane, Suggs, not so much Wendell Carter, but they all benefit from it. The fact that Banchero is out, you're getting a 30% usage rate guy off who does create some assists. I think all these guys are really strong plays, even with the pace being a little bit slower in the matchup versus Brooklyn. So I'm not preparing in terms of like fading any Orlando guys. I am naturally getting a good amount of Suggs, getting a good amount of Wagner, good amount of Bane, but I'm really limiting it so I'm not getting any of the fringe plays. Like Brooklyn, I've played Michael Porter Jr. a lot. I've played Nick Claxton a lot in this matchup. I don't need to really be there, I don't think. The Heat guys, I think they have tournament upside, but I'm not really playing anybody who's unnecessary. To me, it's like Cat seems necessary. Some of the Knicks pieces seem necessary. The Orlando guys seem necessary, but anybody who's like a fringe play, an Anthony Black type, I think those are the ones you probably don't want today.
By the way, Giannis, I might have said AD before because people in chat said that I may have misspoke there. I didn't mean to, but yeah, Giannis is in, AD is still questionable. So that's a fuck up on my part if I misspoke there.
You're moving
markets.
First
time, won't be the last time either. But can you confirm or deny? Did I accidentally say AD?
You did, and I was like, I wasn't going to correct you on it because I assume you've had AD on the brain. You saw the Giannis alert, but people really do seize on anything we vaguely misspeak on in the chat, which is your job, guys. Keep us honest if we say something that's not at all rooted in reality.
So in fairness, though, that is not a little misspeak. That is a pretty big mess up on my part. So correcting it for the record. Yeah, actually very funny. No chalk dog, because I do this fairly regularly. If somebody spreads fake news in the chat, I ban them. So I can't ban myself because that would be problematic for the not that Spags couldn't do the show by himself, but overall would be a little bit problematic if I banned myself. But yeah, that is a mess up on my part. My apologies, guys. Giannis in, AD still questionable. So all right, there we go. We have made sure to clarify that. So here's what I'm currently planning on doing with the first couple games on the slate. I'm going to give a blanket negative ROI boost to everybody from the first couple of games. And as is, Miami and Brooklyn guys, I don't really think there's that much of a need to play anybody from either of those games. There are a lot of really good options from the Knicks and the Magic. And it's guys like Cat, Suggs, who I do think you guys should be playing in single entry, and I think are also really good plays for large field tournaments. I do not want to have so much of them, though, that it hinders my ability to late swap. So it'll still be core options for me, but I am definitely going to do something to kind of limit my exposure to the first couple games on the slate, because the biggest edge that we have in NBA DFS is late swapping. I don't want to take that away from myself by just being completely loaded up on the first couple games here on the slate. Say word's good. Where do you give a blanket ROI boost? Is that what you see under team controls? So what I'll do is it won't necessarily matter for a lot of the players because a lot of guys just don't show up in lineups anyway, right? Like, for example, Joman or Demon, as he might be more common to you guys on the Nets, like he's just not going to show up in lineup. So I don't have to bother myself with doing a negative ROI boost to him. But what I'll do is any of the guys that I'm actually getting any kind of meaningful exposure to from the first couple games on the slate, I'll just do like a -5 or negative 10% ROI boost just to kind of even out some of the exposures. So that's the way that I'll go about doing it. But I don't have to do it to the guys who are just not in the game, just the players who I'm actually getting exposure to.
I think he's literally asking, where are you doing it? Are you doing it under the team controls, like by team? Or are you doing it player by player in exposures?
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you mean it that way, I'm just doing it player by player in the exposure. So what I'll do is on the ROI boost, just anybody who like, Knicks player who's in the first game on the slate, -5% ROI boost. And I'll just only do it to players who I have, more than like 5% exposure to, and then just really easily press the red minus button to give them the -5 or -10%. So that'll be like pretty quick, me going through that. It'll just take like 30, 45 seconds, just scroll down and just click on the negative ROI boost button right there. By the way, Nets starting lineup is out, and the Nets do occasionally move. Oh, by the way, here we go. Cade Cunningham out for today. Let's see if the Duren news is coming out. Also, Duren also has been ruled out. Here's what's nice about this now. Everything I just said kind of becomes less relevant because now we're just going to have that news. We don't have to prepare for some of that news quite as much. But let's see. Is the Stewart news in there?
Yeah, we need that one bad. But Dennis Jenkins again. Have you watched Dennis Jenkins play at all so far?
He rules.
He's so fun. He looks like John Morant, but good. Like he really, he's so much fun out there. I love him.
He's the good version of John Morant. This is actually a conversation that I kind of want to have on a playback show at some point is a redraft. Who would you take, Zion or Morant at this point? I think it's one of the more interesting redraft conversations because it's gone in so many different directions. Like it was clearly Zion at one point, and a lot of people were going to go Morant. Now there's so many question marks about both of them that I think it kind of makes for an interesting discussion point. VJ Edgecombe is in and Isaiah Stewart is in. All right. So we're going to have a pretty big projection update coming shortly for the Detroit Pistons, but confirmed Isaiah Stewart in. I'm making sure I speak very carefully here because I've already fucked this up once today, right? One mess up you could call a mistake. 2 mess ups and I just suck at my job. So I'm going to be very careful with this. Isaiah Stewart listed available to play. Cade Cunningham listed out. Jalen Duren listed out. What are your initial thoughts on this news, Spags?
So now to answer a question with a question, does B-Ball Paul start here? Because like they could start him. He was fantastic in that game versus the Bulls, and they have gone 2 bigs enough lately with Stewart kind of filling in for the Tobias and Asar Thompson role. Because I think what they could do is they could start both, stagger them, play them both as a big man. Tolu Smith also was like producing really well when he was in last game. I think that so Isaiah Stewart looks great. No matter what, he's going to either start, with Paul Reed. But those will both be fine. But I think the Reed and Jenkins part is the part I want to know now. Cause like, I assume Jenkins is going to come off, going to start, get the full run out that he's had lately. And I think there's a chance Reed might start. And it was so fun playing him the other slate.
Russell Westbrook will start tonight also, by the way. So there's another piece of news for you guys. So unfortunately, I kind of liked Russell Westbrook as a sneaky play on FanDuel, saying that in the event that Monk and Sabonis are out, you're going to get this low-owned Russell Westbrook who could put up massive fantasy points. And now we find out that he's going to start. So that's going to kind of inflate some of his ownership anyway. But either way, still think that he's somebody who's worth looking at in GPPs. Also, want to just remind people as we go here. Here are the injury news that we're still waiting on. AD is questionable. Sabonis is questionable. PJ Washington is questionable. Malik Monk is questionable. A lot of the other news we've gotten at this point. Most recently, Cade and Duren both listed as out. Isaiah Stewart is in. Definitely want to see that starting lineup for the Pistons. It's always interesting, Spags, when guys see a really different price tag compared to when they're value options. Because when Paul Reed was, I don't remember the exact prices last slate. Paul Reed was like 3,300. Jenkins was 4,100. They're kind of no-brainer plays at that point. They're much better looking options now, obviously, with Duren and Cunningham out. The question becomes at $6,100 for Jenkins and $5,800 for Paul Reed, are they overpriced, underpriced, fairly priced? Definitely want to see the starting lineup, but based on what we've seen, which I think is kind of what you were alluding to before, I tend to think right now, Paul Reed probably close to fairly priced to a little bit underpriced. I do think Jenkins underpriced though, considering how he's looked so far. So that's where I stand right now on their price tags. I'm also very curious to see what our ownership update looks like, or projection and ownership update looks like when we get it on these guys and see how they project relative to their salaries.
Yeah, Stewart is too cheap. I think no matter what, he's the one that's like too cheap. The fact he's cheaper than Reed and Jenkins, I think, stands out. But like, this is just one of those things, again, talked a lot about Banchero and how I'm viewing the Magic as a result. When you're just taking Cade off and you're taking Duren off, there's just so many possessions left behind here. And, Philly, a fun team, I think, and defensively league average at best. I think it's a spot where these guys can get going again. So I think your first blush, I think, is similar to mine, where Jenkins is going to look playable, to be my guess. Stewart's absolutely incredibly playable no matter what. Paul Reed, if he starts, going to be playable. Nobody else here is going to look that good, though, I don't think.
Ron Holland might to me. he might. He's somebody also who he's $5,100 over on FanDuel on the DraftKings side of things for Ron Holland, just making sure that I've got the price remembered correctly. On the DraftKings side, Ron Holland also $5,200. He's somebody who kind of plays already a role for the team. And remember, the first time that we saw the Pistons shorthanded, he was massively popular, had a big dud game, and then people just kind of bailed on Ron Holland pretty quickly. But you go ahead and look at how he followed up from that game, and he did play 28.5 minutes, scored 23.5 fantasy points. The usage wasn't super high, but he did close that game. He's somebody who I don't think is going to be massively popular. If I want to be a little bit contrarian from Detroit, I think Karis LeVert or Ronald Holland may be potentially a lower-owned option, so I'm just kind of making it. Actually, LeVert can end up being pretty popular because he played well last game. We'll see when the ownership comes out here, but LeVert and Holland are other guys that I definitely think I'm going to be considering. LeVert in particular.
Yeah, LeVert, the longer term sample size looks a lot better than how he's played so far in Detroit, but we do know he could fill it up. I think the one game, a good signifier for him last time out when there's usage go around that he soaked some back up. Ron Holland, I feel like has done the opposite though. Like I played him obviously as we all did when he was super chalk a couple slates ago and starting, and it's like, feels like he has opportunity to get stuff up, but he's out there just kind of playing 3 and D as opposed to these other guys. Like Jenkins is actively looking for a shot every time. I haven't seen that from Ron Holland, but if Jenkins ends up chalky and Holland isn't, yeah, that's a tournament game theory there.
Scon DeBone is asking us Jordan Clarkson or Reed Shepherd as a last man in. I guess Clarkson if I have to pick one. My honest opinion here, though, is maybe rebuild your lineup a little bit. There's a lot of value that's available. If I'm just playing one lineup, I'm not putting Jordan Clarkson or Reed Shepherd in it. But Clarkson would be the choice if it has to be one or the other, just because there's no Jalen Brunson. That creates more opportunity for Jordan Clarkson. So that would make him a potential option. I don't know if you like either of these guys all that much for today.
I'm getting more Reed Shepherd. I would have thought Clarkson had a shot to be playable if he somehow started because he has played a lot of the non-Brunson minutes. But starters just came out, and it's McBride, Bridges, Anunoby, Towns, and Mitchell Robinson. So the fact that Clarkson's not starting, I think Reed Shepherd, at least he's like closing games lately, getting 25-ish. Seems like he get you maybe 28 in some spots. I think Shepherd's playable a little bit more than Greg does, but I think to me Clarkson now, not super into because he needed starting run, I think, to have a shot.
And then let's see if there was any other super chats that we got or questions in Discord. Yeah, we do have a couple of Discord questions here. So let's answer these questions, Spags, and then we will do the nuke of the night. First question here. It is from Win. He says the Detroit guy. Okay, just saying things about Detroit guys. We've already got that news at this point. Einstein, do we like any pieces from the Clippers tonight, like John Collins or James Harden? Let's see. Am I getting anything meaningful from the Clippers?
We also got a projection update too, just FYI.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll check on that in a second. All right. Clippers, guys, is there anything that is meaningfully showing up? I mean, Zubats to an extent, but with that said, I'm underweight to the field to him because he was projected north of 20% ownership. Now that there's extra value that's opened up, I think James Harden is actually kind of an interesting option at $9,600. Just easier to pay up for guys, and he's played a massive role for the Clippers in the absence of Kawhi. So I like James Harden, only pulling 7% ownership at the moment.
Yeah, Harden, I don't mind. I'm getting more Zubac, though. I'm not sure how this Detroit stuff's going to move things around for me because it does seem Stokastic, given Paul Reed starting minutes alongside Stewart and Jenkins. So that makes them all look pretty playable to me. But yeah, I think that's fine besides that.
Boy, these guys are projecting super well. I mean, I just pulled up really quick the FanDuel projections first. And I mean, we've got like in the mid 30s for fantasy point projection for Paul Reed, mid 30s for Isaiah Stewart, Jenkins at 31 fantasy points. And he, for whatever reason, FanDuel must have missed the memo on Dennis Jenkins because he's only $4,500 there. We've got Ronald Holland nearly 30 fantasy points bags. We've got Javonte Green, who's played well at nearly 25 fantasy points. LeVert projecting a little bit lower than I would have expected at 23. So then if we look at these guys' projections on the DraftKings side of things, all right, what do we got? So Detroit projections, yeah, Isaiah Stewart, 35.79 fantasy points for him at $5,600. Strong option. Paul Reed, 35 fantasy points and change at $5,800. Strong option. You got 33 fantasy points for Dennis Jenkins at $6,100. He looks decent. And yeah, Ronald Holland, who I said before, nearly 30 fantasy points at $5,200. So at least in our projections, those four guys all look like pretty good options. Holland, Jenkins, Paul Reed, Isaiah Stewart. Anything really stand out to you about those projections?
I think to me, Reed and Stewart are the ones that I feel the best about, just comparing mine to what Stokastic has projection wise. Just the big man spot, I think, for these two should pay off pretty well. Jenkins, the usage, I wish were a little bit higher so I could feel like really good about it, because he's played well. It's just like it's been in short bursts. And then last game, I felt like the second half, I don't have the shot count in front of me, but like second half, he definitely got less shots up. That's sort of what a guy like Jenkins can be, but I'll be above on them all. I think Reed and Stewart, though, I feel positionality wise, I think it's going to be easier to get to these guys with their projection.
Here are the most rostered players now. We've got, one sec. Let me swap. Okay, there we go. Now it's updated. All right, so on the FanDuel side of things, here's the chalk. 76% ownership to Dennis Jenkins. Yeah, he's $4,500. He is just woefully mispriced there. Paul Reed, 49% owned. Isaiah Stewart, 43% owned. Franz Wagner, 43% owned. Cat, 38% owned. Bane, 38% owned. Giannis, 31% owned. Your chalk on DraftKings. Sort by ownership here. 42% to Diabate, 42% to Isaiah Stewart, 40% to Jalen Suggs, and then just under 30% ownership to Derek Queen, Giannis, and Andre Drummond. Cat now at 25% ownership. Any of those ownership numbers really stand out to you? And then we'll do the nuke of the night.
I think I'm cool with Diabate, cool with Stewart. Honestly, Stewart to me seems a little bit light compared to how I'm viewing him. Suggs holding on to ownership, I think, is interesting because it does feel like you maybe need him a little bit less, but that'll still give you flexibility to get the guys you want later on if there is swap options. Queen, I feel like Reed maybe displaces him a little bit for me, but I still like Queen. It's a lot of ownership. It almost feels like there's too many guys that are going to get played a lot on this slate. I know obviously the math on Stokastic always works out, but there's a lot of chalk put together.
It is a lot of chalk overall, but especially on the FanDuel side of things, I'm playing a little bit more on FanDuel today. I have a feeling I'm going to have close to 100% of Dennis Jenkins at 4,500. That's the best value on the entire slate. That's a wrong price tag.
It's a legit question on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I agree. Like that's like a lock button.
Yeah, that is a easy button to press. So I know we've got some questions that are still going to be coming into us, as well as some pending questions. Certainly want to get to those. But before we do, Spags, we got to do the nuke of the night here. People want to know our favorite tournament play.
30 seconds.
Well, this is an interesting slate that we have here, Spags, because all these players have just recently been ruled out. All kinds of new value has opened up, which could definitely change our strategies to building the lineup. So people are going to need to know, who is your nuke of the night?
So I think for me, and again, I would like to confirm this, I contingent nuke of the night because I think this guy's starting. The data seems to support it, but want to get that confirmed. It's Paul Reed. I think Paul Reed is a really compelling play. Him and Diabate, two centers you can get in. You can play them still with Isaiah Stewart, still play them with Derek Queen if you want. Definitely, a lot of mid-price guys at that point. But Paul Reed's been producing 1.45 fantasy points a minute on the year so far. Accounting for the matchup today and just all the guys out, I think it's going to look even better for him. So assuming he starts, Paul Reed rode him into the sunset on the last slate. Today, the price tag is up, but I don't think it's up enough for these guys being out for Detroit.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interested to see what the starting lineup is for the Detroit Pistons. That's something that is going to have a lot of sway in what, because if Paul Reed doesn't start, obviously that would change the equation
knock him down
quite a
immediately.
bit.
Yeah.
And also, Josh and I are going to be over on Playback in 15 minutes. So if you guys could like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, join Josh and I over on Playback in 15 minutes, and we'll have a little bit more information for you there. Also, maybe if there isn't too much craziness going on with NBA. We also might go ahead and talk a little bit about MMA. There's a huge UFC card tomorrow, Spags, and want to let you guys know that if you sign up for any MMA DFS package with the promo code 322, you're going to get 50% off. Sign up for a weekly package, a monthly package, core, max. If you are playing tonight's UFC card, which it's probably my favorite card of the entire year, you got in the main event Islam Makhachev taking on Jack Della Maddalena, going for a double champ status is Islam. You've got Valentina Shevchenko and Zhang Weili in the co-main event for the number one pound for pound women's ranking right now. I'm super excited for tomorrow's card, so I want to make sure I set up something for you guys. If you're playing, want to use our Sims and tools, promo code 322 because it's UFC 322. That is going to get you 50% off any of our MMA DFS packages. So take advantage of that offer before the end of the night and the deal expires. My nuke of the night. Boy, what direction do I want to go in now? It's so hard. All right, so here's what I'm going to go with. We have seen, I'm actually kind of interested that this has happened. Cat's ownership has dropped a little bit as a result of all the value that's opened up on Detroit. And he's my favorite overall pay up option on the slate. I know I'm not going off the board with some sort of crazy contrarian play. A lot of these shows, Eric and I have been really contrarian with our nukes, but I'm going to give you guys my favorite pay up option on the slate right here. And that's Cat with Jalen Brunson out. I don't want him to go forgotten despite him playing in the first game on the slate. I feel like I need to have a lot of Karl Anthony Towns tonight.
I think that's going to be less owned than what the projection is right now, because I really do think people are going to cram Stewart endlessly, as they should. I think a good amount of people will play Diabate and Reed at center, and then you have one more forward spot left, and I think Derek Queen will be a value play that people get to. So going Cat's way there in that group, you have to give up one of the preferred plays on the slate, but I think Cat gets a little bit forgotten now.
Could be. I mean, like I said at the top, I was thinking he was somebody who's going to be like 40% owned today, and now he's in the mid 20s. And to Spag's point, maybe it even comes a little bit lower just because he's somebody who, you see this happen all the time leading into lock. People aren't late swapping quite as much this year, but one thing that we have seen happen pretty frequently in the past is people gravitate towards the newer value options. And because Jalen Brunson has been out for a little bit more of a meaningful amount of time, people could be more excited about swapping to the Pistons guys because that news came out more recent. There we go. Anthony Davis has officially been ruled out. And PJ Washington also ruled out. So both of the Mavericks guys are going to be out for today, Spags. We got that officially here. Quick thoughts on that, because obviously that mixes up the slate a little bit here.
Yeah, it's gonna throw things for a loop. I mean, look, I don't think Cooper Flagg's gonna come up for me as much because of having Stewart. He might. I don't know. I think Cooper Flagg's gonna project better. Gafford should project better, but Lively's back in, so that's not great for the overall equation. But like, Washington's had a really big role. I mean, low-key, the biggest winner might be Brandon Williams, who's been playing pretty well and getting the starting point guard run as sort of part of the Mavs rebellion against Nico Harrison, I think was what some of the articles were indicating. But now he's just holding on to the role at this point above D'Angelo Russell, and he's producing 1.01 fantasy points per minute with these guys, with PJ Washington playing at the very least, and some of Anthony Davis. So yeah, I think Najee Marshall will look better. Flagg will look better. Brandon Williams will look better. Gafford, probably still not playable, but maybe close to it. I'm curious to see how Flagg looks though, because you called this really early, and I thought they were just gonna get PJ playing because it feels like he always plays.
I'm bummed out that I feel like I lost on one of my bigger edges that I had here, because this is something that I was kind of expecting to happen. The PJ Washington one, to be clear, I did not. The Anthony Davis one, I felt pretty good that he was gonna sit, even if I fucked up and said something incorrect when I mixed up him and Giannis's name earlier. But now this is just going to be information that everybody is going to be loaded with heading into the slate. Cooper Flagg, I think, looks a little bit better. The other one, to me, I totally agree with you on Brandon Williams. He's been starting over D'Angelo Russell and playing more than recently. And it's just because he is flat out better than D'Angelo Russell at this point in their career. And when I watch the Mavericks games and I see Brandon Williams on the court, I'm like, I think he's legitimately good.
He was good last year too. Like when they were like out of everybody and Jaden Hardy had gotten hurt and whatever other point guards gotten hurt. And it was like, they brought him up and he, I think, was initially on 10 days or a G League deal, and they got the full contract. And he was not on the roster for a little bit. And he's earned his spot in a way that I think probably resonates with how this team has been and kid coaching. And I think D'Angelo Russell seemed like a Deco pick that kind of got forced in. And now that's course correcting here. But yeah, Brandon Williams is going to gain a lot. Cooper Flagg will gain a lot. I really want to see the projections and get my shit in because this is fucking chaos. This is too chaotic, Greg. I don't enjoy this.
Yeah, I do. This is my jam. By the way, also, Derek Lively is going to be limited to 15 to 18 minutes. So don't expect any kind of a big workload out of Derek Lively. He's certainly not somebody who's in play. Boy, lots of super chats here. Amy, could you give me your tiers picks, please? I could do it super, super quickly. So I'll run through this. I'll just do this by myself, Spags. Okay. You work on your lineups while I answer Amy's super chat here. So tiers from Amy. Tier 1 for me, that is going to be Giannis. Tier 2 for me, that is Kat. Tier 3, that is going to be Anthony Edwards. Tier 4, that is going to be Franz Wagner. Tier 5, that is Amen Thompson. Tier 6, that is going to be Cooper Flagg for me now. So that is all the picks that I have for tiers here. Josh Pulliam says, you guys answered this a million times, but I feel good about a lineup in cash games. Do I enter that same lineup in tournaments? Yeah, I don't have an issue with that for NBA, playing a cash game lineup in tournaments. Totally cool by me. It's a little bit different from something like NFL, where you don't need correlation in cash games. We kind of do in tournaments, but for basketball, yeah, it's no big deal. Malcolm Revamp wants to know DK tiers. Just went over that, so 2 for 1. Corey Bomber, Drummond or Reed? And then thoughts on Brandon Williams tonight. Like Brandon Williams, Drummond versus Reed. What do you think of that 1v1 there, Spags?
I am Team Reed. Again, assuming he starts, I think he'll project about 6 or 7 fantasy points better for me. Just Reed has been a monster. And it is, people, I know the YouTube chat loves it. Revenge game for B-Ball Paul back in Philadelphia after they've tried a lot of their centers and probably been better off keeping him. And Brandon Williams, we talked about, but he's great. So yeah, Reed and Brandon Williams, both good plays for me.
All right. Let's see. We've got all the super chats answered. We'll get to as many of the questions in Discord as we possibly can. But this was obviously a busy slate where a lot of things ended up changing. By the way, Sabonis available to play. And what we saw before is that Malik. Oh, there we go. Malik Monk also available to play. So there we go. The news. Zed wants to know, does the Detroit News change Drummond projections in either a good or bad way? Does this change how you view Andre Drummond for tonight?
I think it'd be fair to say that you could view him a little bit better because there should be a few more missed shots to go around. Certainly a weaker team overall. I think that Drummond is not as good of a player at this stage as Paul Reed or Isaiah Stewart. Is that a hot take? I don't think it is. But Drummond's playing well. He's closing games. Like, if you like Drummond, that's fine. I was not as into Drummond today as everybody else. I just don't think the rates underlying are supporting it as much, even though he's playing big minutes now and they trust him clearly more than they have in the past.
So there is something funny about this, which is, does it change Drummond's projection? No. But he looks less appealing just because there's other value options that are available on the slate. So it doesn't change Drummond in terms of, oh, now I expect him to score X fantasy points instead of Y fantasy points. It changes him in terms of just other really good options landed or opened up on the slate. And that's just going to naturally smooth out exposures a little bit. That to me is the bigger impact that it has on Andre Drummond. Win wants to know, Kevin Durant or Jimmy Butler today? Let's see.
Projection update too for anybody who needs one.
Ooh, okay. I do need one. This is going to be right down to the wire here, Spags.
I know this is harrowing. Shout out the data team though. They did turn that around about as fast as humanly possible for both the Dallas guys being out.
Yeah, that was very, very late breaking news there. And yeah, we got that update. So running everything through the Sims and updating stuff here as quickly as possible. That's going to be Durant for me over Butler. How about for yourself?
Honestly, neither, but it would be Durant for me.
All right. The next question that we have here from chat wants to know, what amount of exposure are we getting to Dennis Jenkins? So I can't give you an exact number, only because it's going to be really hard for me to give you guys exact numbers, not because I don't want to be transparent, but because we just got a pretty big update and it is going to be right down to the wire updating lineup. So I'm just not going to know the exact exposure I have until right around lock. On FanDuel, I'm going to have a ton of him. On DraftKings, I still think that he's a viable option, but he's not somebody who's going to show up in like 70% of lineups or anything like he has in some other previous slates. What is your thoughts on the amount of Jenkins that you expect to have?
I am getting right now about 20%. I'm going to rerun stuff for the Dallas guys. I'm not sure that Brandon Williams looking a little bit better is going to help Jenkins out. I think he projects well for me. I think the salary is making it hard to get to him compared to a lot of the players who are at a similar price point / spending that same salary to their positions. So I'm going to rerun things now, but I was a little bit lower on Jenkins. Getting Stewart and Reed, though, out the ass for my run so far.
All right. And how are you doing on your lineups, by the way?
I should be good if not enough to help you out, but enough to have a half-ass conversation on the home stretch.
Yeah, listen, with things like this happen, it's every man for himself. I'm not I'm not naive to that. But yeah, it'll be down to the wire, but I think I'll be good as well. Bando, Diabate over Drummond. Yeah, I do assume that on DraftKings, Diabate is going to look a little bit better than Drummond just because of the price difference between them.
Yeah, 100% for me. Definitely love Diabate. Drummond, I think, was barely a play for me on the slate. I'm surprised because Drummond going to be chalk on the slate because there's a lot of Drummond questions, and he really wasn't on my radar as much as it seems like he is for a lot of you guys. Not saying that disparagingly, but I just don't think Drummond is like that much of a crazy exciting play.
So I mean, our last ownership update, Drummond is 24% owned. So I guess it depends what it is that we're considering, like massive chalk or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think that's reasonable. He'll be somewhere in like the mid 20% as far as ownership goes.
Okay. And also I ended up with 48% Jenkins, it looks like, in what I'm submitting. So for anybody that wants to feel confident in whatever amount you're putting in on DK, I was able to get to half.
CN Dukwe wants to know do I like Cat on DraftKings or FanDuel? It's both. I think he's a really strong option as a pay up on both. Win is asking us a 3v3 question: Maxey Moody Drummond or Curry Norm Powell Reed for a FanDuel GPP? The latter. Curry Norm Powell Reed. Reed's a really strong option on FanDuel. Hotwire wants to know Clay taking 16 shots last game, him or Max Christie. If it's one or the other, I'll say Clay over Christie. Yourself?
Yeah, Clay getting some narrative steam because Patrick Beverley referred to Megan Thee Stallion as a pussy. Just say it. He's like, oh, that pussy's affecting Klay Thompson. And Klay Thompson literally replied on Instagram, called him, and not as many words, a piece of shit. So might be a little bit of narrative for Clay, and there's usage to go around. Max Christie has no such narrative and is also not getting bodied by Megan Thee Stallion currently.
And I could be speaking incorrectly here, but I believe I saw a TMZ report that Patrick Beverley was also arrested for assault today. So really bad timing for him to be in the public, kind of disputing about one of these sorts of things, and then has something like that end up happening with him. But anyway, Einsteinium, Najee Marshall or Ron Holland. That is Ron Holland for me over Najee Marshall as of right now.
Yeah, it's a little bit closer for me. Let me see where I ended up with Najee at. Yeah, I would go Ron Holland still. I'd go Ron Holland.
Yeah, and the next question, it is from the Nature Boy. Where are you compared to the field for Diabate on DraftKings? I'm running lineups right now, so not totally sure, but I assume I'll be a little bit overweight to the field on Diabate just based on where I was before with him. Yourself?
He's in almost every lineup of mine. I am team Diabate, team Isaiah Stewart. Those two made it into almost everything.
All right, Spags, we actually answered all of the questions there in Discord, which I did not think we were going to be able to do with a full minute to spare. I've got my lineups uploaded as well. Let me actually make sure that they actually took, though, because that's always something that could be a little bit dicey. So I'll upload the CSV one more time just in case. But any final thoughts on the slate here before we head into lock? Just a minute to go.
No, I think just keeping an eye out for starters. Like, to me, for Paul Reed, confirming that he's a starter is still an important part of the game. If he's not a starter, he is mostly leverage against Stewart if he somehow gets in foul trouble or something like that. But look, it seems like there's still some swap options to be had today. There's still a lot you can do potentially. But Greg, I'm glad we got all the news early. I feel like we got just enough time where it was hard for people. It was hard for us, but we still, I got the shit the way I wanted. So that makes me happy.
Listen, there's no better way to do the show than hard. That's how we like it around here. If only we had a fancy sponsor like Blue Chew or something that I could plug right now. But Nevertheless, Josh and I are going to be on playback in about a minute from now. Like I mentioned before, we do have a great UFC card for tomorrow. So if you guys are looking to use our tools, 50% off any MMA DFS package with the promo code 322. Over on Tails, you'll be able to find some MMA bets as well for the big card. I know one guy in particular, Dravi, super sharp. There's a lot of guys that I like to tail over on Tails. Dravi is one of them. I believe he's running a promo on his package as well. Promo code 322 for that as well for the big pay-per-view for tomorrow. So actually, I think it's UFC 322 is what his promo code is. So you could use that to get a discount on Dravi's bets for tomorrow. Spags, anything else that you want to tell people about where to find you as I get the playback link to give to the people before I go join Josh?
Glad to be here with you guys as always. Make sure to check out my NBA channel at Splash Play Bets, my NFL channel at Splash Play Pod if you want some week 11 takes for that stuff. And I'll be on live before lock tomorrow with Emacs. Saturdays are the home of Spags. I'm coining that here on Stokastic. Saturdays, the home of Spags, where I prepare NBA and keep grinding hard here because this is fun, right? Great. We're having fun when the chaos ensues, right?
As long as I end up making money on my lineups, the worst thing that happens is you have one of these slates where like you stay up late, you grind all the swaps and everything to just like lose half of your money or something like that. But I do think the expected results should be pretty strong for today. So guys, I dropped the playback link into chat. Come join Josh and I over there. We still don't have the Pistons starting lineup. That could be massive for today. I'm assuming that Paul Reed starts at center. You never know, though. This team is goofy. They do all kinds of weird shit. So join Josh and I over on Playback. We are going to have you guys covered on any late-breaking news or starting lineup changes. That link, once again, in chat. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. And see you over in Playback. Good luck.